right. I saw Dudley Do Wrong doing a offensive line podcast, and I got excited. I haven't been watching many of the other shows out there. I'm so busy. Turned 51, 3 young kids, 2 young pups. They think they're one of my 3 kids, so I kind of got 5 kids now, and I'm old and tired, and I had some health stuff. So I haven't been able to dig into the other shows, but I'm feeling really good these days. My health is kind of going up, and I've got a vacation coming, so I'm kind of excited about that. So I've been checking some of these other shows out. When I saw Dudley Do Wrong, it's a great channel, great guy. I only had one issue with him when Flores got fired. I thought he was a little hot and heavy on kind of turning Flores into the bad guy. I got a little upset at him. But other than that, I think he's obviously the best channel out there. A real nice guy, real smooth delivery and all that stuff. So I want to recommend that you go check that channel out. I'm going to kind of do a little offensive line thing because that's my jammy. I agree with almost everything he had to say, although there were certain elements of context I did disagree with, and there's elements I want to add into that to support my findings and some of his, and maybe even kind of give a different perspective. And that's what I believe in. I think from what I've seen doing this thing for 2 years, there are some great Dolphins channels. Dudley Do Wrong, TD Phins Talk, Kyle Krabs, on it goes. There's all these great shows. And some people say, well, I don't like this guy. He's not. It's a perspective. And I believe that all the people I've mentioned, among many others, offer such great information and perspectives that it's really about pooling the perspectives to create an overall evaluation. Nobody gets it all right. Nobody gets it all wrong. So definitely check out Dudley Do Wrong's show on it. And what I want to do here is do a historical biopsy on the history of the Dolphins drafting to kind of create a position to start the evaluation, because I hear a lot of people talking now that Matt Applebaum was fired, that is it the staff, the coaches, or is it the talent? Or really, is it both? And it's very, very difficult to start talking about position coaches for the most part, especially on the offensive line. There's a lot of stuff that goes into it. I can create context for you for pros and cons about Matt Applebaum, and it kind of gets into a gray area. Now, gray areas are fine, but what I want to do here is, with my historical biopsy, is clear information starting from the draft of 2007 all the way to this last season to go over every draft pick that the Dolphins have picked. And you might say, why are you starting in 2007, Curtis? Well, that's when Grier took over as the head of scouting department. He was a scout since 2001. I don't know how much final influence he really had in 2007. I can't remember when he was actually hired. So 2008 might have been his official takeover. But clearly, if he was on his way into taking the head of all college scouts, he had a large voice. And then once he became the head of college scouts, he began creating the protocols, having the staff that he wanted, kind of sending out the parameters for how to draft. His voice became a huge voice in how the draft process went. The profiles and the evaluations, all these reports come up, and then they filter up to the head of college scouts, who then brings it to the GM. The GM then filters it out to different members of the brass, and then different from the staff itself. And everybody comes in and starts talking about it and pooling. It's not one guy goes, I want to draft him, and him. That's not how it works. But the one clear aspect is the head of college scouts is the guy who creates the parameters and protocols and the fundamentals of how these scouts are going out and identifying talent. And then the staff is like, I want a smart, fast guy, my tackle, whatever. They set the prototypes, and then the scouts and staffs find these kind of guys. Occasionally you get some staff members who say, I want you to look at this guy and, whatever. But for the most part, it's a big process, a big pool. And really, the GM, unless you got an owner coming and saying, I want this guy, and then the head of college scouts, the two working together, are the largest voices of the overall information. Okay, you got it? And the GM has a lot to say, obviously, on the head of college scouts, but you understand what I'm saying. So I got a big graphic here. I'm going to go through all the information and end up with some concrete points for us to begin the evaluation. Now, this does not mean we're going to have a great offensive line in 2023, or it doesn't mean we're going to have a terrible offensive line in 2023. But we could take this historical look and understand something, and it will give us a nice jumping point. Savvy, comprendez-vous, entiendo, the whole 9 yards. All right, so I want to thank you for stopping by. I know it was a little bit of an intro here, but I think it'll pay off in the second part. So I want to say thank you for stopping by. I want to give you guys a shout out to Ace Per Head, my sponsor, because without you, without them, this show ain't going down. Ace Per Head's betting software is the premier white label platform for bookies to manage their players and grow their sportsbook operation. Click the link in the description below to get set up in minutes. Ask for the Curtis promo and get a special introductory discount. Take a look at this graphic right here. Bang, right here. And you'll see I've got every single pick from 2007 to 2022. We didn't have one, so there's none up there. And then I got a little coding system on the left and then a little math problem on the right with the sum line and a plus, and then we'll come to that evaluation. But I want you to start 2007, second round, we drafted center Samson Satilli. No good, no bueno. Then we drafted in 2008, Sean Murphy in the fourth round, Donald Thomas in the sixth round. He was a guard. Murphy was a tackle. And then first overall, we took Jake Long. Now, Murphy was no good. Donald Thomas, he kind of shined a little bit later on in his career, but not so much here. Jake Long was unbelievable, but we know the injury in preseason that started the cascading of the end of his career, and it was a shame. Super, super talented. Now, you see next to him, you see obviously the X is easy, no bueno. But you see the check here means this guy was a good pick. The blue star means he was a star. But the cloud over him means there was some kind of mitigating factor, severe mitigating factor on that pick. And in this case, it was injury history. And Jake Long was never the guy we thought he'd be, and the talent he had, and the commensurate of the first overall pick. Then 2009, we got Andrew Gardner, the tackle, six-round pick, no bueno. 2010, John Jerry, tackle, third round, no bueno. Then in 2011, we got Mike Pouncey, 15th overall guard, who we moved to center. Obviously, see here, much like Jake Long, starter, good pick in the essence of talent, star player, but a cloud of injury. He had a longer career than Jake Long, but never fully maximized his draft status. Then in 2012, in the second round, we got tackle Jonathan Martin. Big X. I could have put 5 X's there, but I put the black cloud because he created Bullygate, and the offensive line that was kind of starting to develop kind of exploded after that, and it became nothing. Then 2013, Dallas Thomas in the third round, tackle, terrible. Wasn't even a backup once he left here. Then Billy Turner in the third round. He was a tackle in 2014, no bueno, but he kind of shined a little bit later on. Nothing great. Kind of moved to guard. Juwan James in the first round instead of Carr, like Philbin Queasy wanted. The 2014, he was the 19th overall pick tackle. He was okay, but he only had one contract here and then went to Denver. And then he had much injury history, so that was kind of a letdown. Then 2015, nobody. 2016, we got Laramie Tunsil in the first round, 13 overall. Fell to us, and he was a good player. Although he started at guard, he was not good at guard. He was not good at guard, no. And then he had the injury history in the second. He had the injury season in the second season with a toe. And then he started to shine a little bit in that third season. Some real pop ready to happen, but didn't really fully happen. And then we traded him. So he was a check, and he was a good player for us. That's the rising arrow, but we moved on for him. Then 2017, 5th round pick, Isaac Asiata, guard. He ate himself out of the league. No good. Isaiah Prince, we had him for a season. He went to the Bengals, and, he played in the Super Bowl, but he wasn't too good. So that's X there. Then Michael Dieter in the 3rd round, guard. And he had injury histories on and off, but he was no good. Then we got Solomon Kinley in 2020 with 2 4th-round picks to guard, and he's no good. He's left the team. And then we got Robert Hunt in the 2nd round, 39th overall pick guard, and he's been a good player for us. He's been a starter, and he gets not a star level yet, although he could, but he is a quality player for us. Then in 2020, we also took Austin Jackson, 18th overall, and he gets an X and a black cloud because he's had some injury history and he has been poor. He missed all last season, so he's played 3 seasons for us. First season was meh. Second season was a disaster. Got moved to guard, and then his 3rd season, he was supposed to be ready to go, and injury history, so he got the black cloud and the X. Then we got Lenore Coleman in the 7th round, no bueno. In 2021, then we got Liam Eichenberg for a 2nd and a 3rd. He gets the X and the black cloud because he was very, very poor. He was drafted as a tackle, evaluated as a guard. Then he had a play tackle, and he was terrible. Then he played guard this year, and he was injured a ton, and he was terrible. So that's the entire history of the Miami Dolphins drafting of offensive linemen for, you'll see on the right-hand side here, 16 seasons worth of drafting. 20 players picked, 22 picks used, 5 first-round picks, 4 second-round picks, 5 third-round picks, 3 fourth-round picks, 1 fifth, 3 sixth, and 1 seventh. Out of that whole grouping, you ended up with 2 stars and 2 quality players, 12 tackles, 11 guards, 1 center, and ultimately it was 4 legitimate starters, 2 injury-prone of those 4, and 1 traded away. So you ended up in 16 seasons with only 1 player out of all this investment. That's a guy you're going to keep past his first contract. So that's the whole framework. And you'll see injury history, guys that are reaches, guys that are high athletic, but not really much junk in the trunk as far as power, guys who tend to be quote-unquote thinkers and maybe even sensitive guys that just don't seem to pan out. It's been a trend. We hit, if you see over here, with Long and Pouncey and Tunsil on players that drop to us or players we use very high picks with. Out of the 5, we hit with 3, although 2 were injury-prone and 2 we missed on. But really, the 2nd round picks, 3rd and all, we haven't found 1 late draft winner in 16 years. And so while you could say, we could talk about the coaching clearly, we could dial in on this coach and that coach, but the reality is we've had to, in order to, look at that, 4 legitimate starters in 16 years, 5 guys on an offensive line. That's very little picks used on offensive linemen to begin with. So we've had to trade to get players. We had to go in free agency, and we've missed a lot on that too. I could dig into that. But, there's a real big coaching aspect there. And, Brandon Albert, was he worth it? 2 seasons maybe. Look at Armstead, really good player, but injury history. I like Connor. You could talk about that. But overall, our drafting processes, we don't value offensive linemen too much as far as how much focus we have other than using big capital. And it seems as the draft process went, we started using more picks and trading up and trying to overreach to get, because there's something going on in the background that this scouting staff, this group of coaches that come in with the scouting staff, have a very, very hard time finding offensive linemen. If you look at this, you can clearly say there is major major talent issues here. And it's not to blame just Chris Greer, although he's been a major component. You could talk about, the coaching staff, the owner, the different GMs, the sharing of power and all that. But the bottom line is this was a terrible, maybe one of the worst jobs at finding offensive linemen in the NFL over the last 16 years. So just want to leave you with that. I'm going to build off that and try to do some more context as far as dealing with what this offensive line is and is not and why it performed the way it did last year. Again, check out Dudley Do Wrong. Really good platform of information. Not to say it's, all 100%, but I really did like it. I agree with a lot of it. And so I want to leave with that. Going on vacation in a couple of weeks, so I have to touch on the offensive line before I leave in about a week and a half. So I hope you enjoyed. Curtis saying, catch you next time. Be well. Come on, go Phins. Go Phins. Get some linemen. We need an offensive line. Start building your own online sports book today by getting signed up with aceperhead.com service that'll allow you to book action on sports from all around the world.